Hello friends, a very warm welcome to Ansarkari. I am Vikas Bhardwaj and let's continue our understanding where we have left our previous concept. And we are understanding today modern developments in democracy. I am sure you are revising and you are also taking notes of the previous concepts and correlating with the textbook also. Modern democracy, as we have already seen, is tracing its root to ancient Greek democratic principles. And it is centered on the authority entrusted to the people via free and fair elections. That is one of the general concept. We are not saying that the Greek concept is actually bringing everyone into the fold of democracy. So modern democracy, they are also widely allowing the practice and also they are upholding many democratic principles. That is true. Now, by thinking very clearly, and if you read these concepts very clearly and in a calm manner, and I ask you one question, if democracy means different things in different places, which single feature, according to you, must be there in every system, which will keep it remain democratic? Just think about it and try to write this answer. Now, let's see liberal democracy and the Western assumption of what democracy is. So, Western model believes that there must be regular, competitive, and also there must be elections which are based on universal adult franchise or universal suffrage. This is called liberal democracy. Now, liberal world, if we discuss, then liberal word and term can be also misleading in some ways because there are different theories within the liberal tradition which are proposing different kind of institutional structures of democracy. That means there is no one single thought which actually can explain all the liberal principles. That is why liberal is a broad principle. Liberal means allowing someone and also it is encompassing as many broad ideas as possible if I say in general terms. So my question is that if you are calling a system liberal, that means if I read out the question for you, does calling a system liberal conceal ideological disagreement about what democracy must protect? That means if I say in Hindi, it is saying कि क्या एक सिस्टम को जब आप लिबरल कहते हो वो सिस्टम आइडियोलॉजिकल जो डिसएग्रीमेंट्स अलग अलग ग्रुप्स में अलग अलग सोसाइटीज में हो सकते हैं उनको वो अंदर अपने छिपा लेता है और जो वो डिफरेंट आइडियोलॉजिकल जो डिफरेंसेस हैं या डाइवर्जेंसेस हैं उनको आपस में उनको अगर वो छिपाता भी है तो ऐसा कौन सा आइडिया या प्रिंसिपल है जिसको डेमोक्रेसी प्रोटेक्ट करे? कौन से ऐसे आइडियाज हैं डिसएग्रीमेंट के बावजूद भी लिबरल है हम अपने एटीट्यूड में, हमें कुछ बातों को पकड़ना पड़ेगा कुछ को छोड़ना पड़ेगा, तो किसको हम पकड़ें किसको हम छोड़ें? हम अपने लिबरल डिस्कोर्स में अगर कहें तो क्या हम करें? There are four contrasting models of democracy that we need to remember. One is classical model, other is protective model, third is developmental model, and fourth is people democracy. Remember this. Each model offers a distinct interpretation of popular rule. Everyone says that it is a popular rule, but everyone is having a different viewpoint, and there are different justifications for democracy. If I ask you after covering chapter that which of the four model would you choose if you had to design a constitution, okay, please do try to solve this exercise. Now let's see classical democracy. The root is in the polis, that is ancient Greece, especially 4th and 5th centuries. We have already discussed 4th and 5th century BCE, Athens, that is Greek city state. The core principle is direct participation of people is there, that is called ecclesia, ECCLESIA. That is very important. Please note it down. There is a principle of debate. There is proposing and voting on laws, and the hallmarks are intense citizen engagement. Very important that there must be citizen engagement. Citizen will be discussing and debating. What are the limitations? There will be different groups of people, for example women, and also different caste. If I say, there would not be directly caste like India, but there will be certain group of people who will not be allowed and part of the whole democratic process. And slavery is also banned. That means banned, I mean to say banned in democratic principles. Slavery is there, but slaves are not part of democratic process. They are not eligible for participation. So if I say that the Greek style or the Athens Greek style direct democracy, if I say the police level direct democracy, if it want to become a great nation democratic principle, like for example, Greek city state was a small state, but if you want to apply that into a big nation, it is possible, or why it is not possible? Just think about it. It's a very interesting question. Let's see now protective democracy. Protective democracy is linked with early liberalism because protective, that means democracy is there to protect the fundamental rights of the people, protect the freedom of the people. That's what one can say. In 17th and 18th century, it is aimed at safeguarding citizens from government overreach. That means government in the name of government cannot do everything. There must be powers in the hand of citizens where they can actually take their daily life in their own hands. Citizens must be given certain kind of power so that citizens can actually stop the dictatorial tendencies of government. That is why we call it protective democracy. So key principle and the key person over here, very important to remember, is John Locke. He believed that democracy is a government by consent. That means people are giving consent to the government, or that means people are coming together and democratic principles are coming into picture. They are voting, and they are voting because it is in their natural rights. For example, property is one of the rights with the people, and that is why it is their decision that what kind of government do they want, and the government must not control their lives completely. So what it is emphasizing upon? It is emphasizing upon representative assemblies, then protection of individual liberties, that is speech, what people want to write, what people want to speak. It is not that certain people can say anything, certain people cannot say anything. It is having the right to assembly. If people believe that we have to get together and we have to convey certain thing to the government and they are not agreeing, they must be able to do so, and people must have right to private property. So this is what is protective democracy's principle are. So if protection of liberty is primary, if I ask you a question, if the protection of liberty is primary, how should the system, that means democracy, treat economic inequality? Because economic inequality is undermining liberty. Because those who are having no economic resources, how they can use their liberty? In India also there are number of billionaires living in Mumbai spending lakhs of rupees per day, but at the same time there are so many people who are living below the flyovers. Do you think that the liberty of both the peoples are same? How? If the protection of liberty is primary, we have to protect the liberty of each person. Then economic inequality is actually undermining liberty. Please think about this question. Universal suffrage and utilitarian support is another very important concept, where universal suffrage means that everybody is allowed to vote. So there was radical push. That means there were demands, there were book returns, and there were discussions and debates in societies for universal suffrage in the late 18th century by Jeremy Bentham and James Mill. Very important to utilitarians. So utilitarian case believes in the idea that democracy protects and advances individual interests. Okay, democracy is actually helpful in protecting and promoting interest of individual. That means individuals in society. But then it can also at the same time neglect distributive justice. Why? Because every individual is not equal. Certain individual will be having more resources, certain individuals are having less resources. So if there is no distributive justice like the way Indian constitution believes in, for example, economic EWS quota is there, or reservation is there, or for that matter MG Narega is there, or for that matter we also give subsidy to farmers. These are examples of distributive justice. Free ration is also example of distributive justice. So they believe that democracy is protecting and advancing individual interests, but then distributive justice must also be taken care of. So my question to you is that if everybody is allowed to vote, that is universal suffrage is justified by utility. That means everybody must, allowed to vote. What metrics or what factors will you use to prove that if everybody is voting, it is helping in the overall welfare of the masses? Now let's come to developmental democracy. That is by Rousseau and Mill. Very important. It is shifting its focus. You can see the growth of individual and community, or you can say communal capabilities. What Jean-Jacques Rousseau was believing in, that freedom is equal to adhering to a law that one prescribes upon oneself. That means there is a law which people are actually believing in it completely, and people are going to follow it also. That means there is no external force required. People are ready to apply on themselves certain principles and they are following it very actively. So democracy requires active and continual civic engagement. Like Pradhan Mantri Modi says that Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, or for that matter, we must vote, or for that matter, girl child must be given education. These are all examples of developmental democracy. So Juan Stuart Mill, he also believed in a less radical developmental variant, in which he believed that democratic participation must be there for personal and civic improvement. So I think if we say developmental democracy, then both Rousseau's ideas and Stuart Mill ideas, do you think they are found in Indian democracy? Please think about it. So I am leaving you with the question that a deeper civic education. Civic education means what are my rights, what are my fundamental duties, why I must protect public property, and participation, voting participation, safai participation, you know, corruption को कम करना है. Is it going to make citizens happier, or is it going to make them more burdened? Please think about it. Now, another type of democracy is people's democracy or Marxist tradition. It is actually coming into picture clearly after the Second World War, when communist regime, that means based on communist ideas, that means idea of Karl Marx, that means a type of socialism. It is modeled on Soviet example. So Marxist says that people's democracy means when there is rule by proletariat. Okay, rule by proletariat. Please Google this. Rule by soldiers, ruled by farmers. That means grassroots rule. And it is aiming at social equality. That is collective ownership. Whole land will be divided. Whole land will be taken up by the government. No private enterprise will be there. So political democracy, which we have discussed till now, that is the Western type of democracy, they believe it is a bourgeois democracy. Bourgeois means elite class. Bourgeois means capitalist class. Bourgeois means, you know, rich influential class. So Marxists believe the time will come one day when capitalism will be overthrown by the genuine democratic equality. That means the democracy practiced by farmers, democracy practiced by soldiers, like the way USSR was there. So this is also called as social democracy. So my question to you again is that if democracy aims at equality, if our Indian democracy is also aiming at equality, should economic structures be democratized before the political structures are democratized? That means no private property must be there. There must be completely democratization of economic structure. No Ambani, no Adani. Everything should be equal. And then only you can give political rights to each and everybody. So please think, this is a very, very important debate and question. Now let's summarize when we say ends and means, because democracy in so many ways different, so many ways same, and so forth. So one is the classical model says civic participation and direct rule must be there, as we have seen in case of the Athenian values and ideas. Protective democracy believes that individual liberty must be safeguarded by institutions and there must be representation. Then we spoke about developmental, where it says the citizen growth and active engagement is the key. They are having complete control, radical ideas, and the citizens will decide. It is a very, very like the way we see in France today or even in America. People's democracy, it also believes in social equality, right for everyone, and collective ownership as a precondition for real democracy. Collective ownership means that if there are public parks, there are public roads, everything is owned by everyone. So question is that which of these ends, participation, liberty, equality, or even development, is the most lacking in today's democracy? Do you think that Indian democracy, Chinese democracy, Russian democracy, or even African democracy, or even Southeast Asia, do you really think all these values they are present everywhere in equal terms, or do you think something is missing everywhere in some way? What is happening? Please think. Now, if we talk about democracy, then certain things will be trade-off for certain things. Trade-off means that if I want to study, then I have to give up on playing. If I want to do something great in life, then may I have to spend more time in studies. Everything is not possible. So scale versus participation. That means on what large scale is there. For example, government wants to, everybody must become part of election process, but not everybody is doing. 60% voting is there. Then similarly, in case of liberty, we'll say equality. So if we are having freedom to do everything, then everybody is not getting a chance to do everything also. Equality is also missed out on that. Similarly, expertise versus mass will. Expertise means that you have certain things which must be done in a certain way. For example, a state government is there which believes that schools must be opened in large number, but the people says no, we want job first. Similarly, in short term, you want free bijli, free pani, but in the long term, you are losing out on development. So these are all very very important and a very very key discussions and debates. I'm just giving you certain ideas. So no single model is going to resolve all the tensions. Institutional design must choose which tension must be resolved first. Institutional design means the constitution and the government must decide. So if you are a chief minister or if you are a leader, if you have to sacrifice one democratic ideal, we have discussed so many, for the another, which one will you sacrifice, and for other, which will you choose, and why do you do so? Please think and write the answer. Similarly, why diversity matters in India? It is very very important. Diversity is very important for India. Why it matters? Because plurality of model shows democracy is multifaceted. It is having multiple faces. Different societies justify and they institutionalize popular rule differently. If you say Saudi Arabia, they also call themselves like that. If you say Thailand, then it's also like that. Japan, Australia, US. So plurality of models is showcasing democracy is multifaceted. So recognizing diverse democratic logics, they helps us to diagnose failures. We understand what is wrong in Canada. We understand what was wrong in South Africa when apartheid was there. Apartheid means the distinction, or there was a Rang Bhed Niti in which black people were segregated. So we learn and understand from different countries and bring those reforms to our country. That means we have to see that what is the aim, procedural legitimacy, or we have the aim of substantive justice. Procedural legitimacy means, we will discuss in detail also later, that means there is a procedure given down in the constitution and you have to follow it. The procedure is there and the procedure is given in the constitution or in the law. It is called legitimate procedure, and that is what is called procedural legitimacy. But many times procedure is followed. You are studying from day to night, you are sending the timetable also, but you are not getting any output. That means no substantive justice is done. Substantive justice means beyond procedure. Procedure is important, but procedure is not everything. At the end of the day, result must be there, people must be happy. My question to you is that when reforming a democracy, should we copy a model from elsewhere or should we build completely from a local democratic aims? Think about it and write a short answer. So what we can take away from the whole discussion, the reflection is modern democracy evolved from ancient practice to multiple competing theories. Its meaning depends on chosen ends, that is protection, participation, development and equality. We have taken four very important themes. So these models, they clarify that there is debate about electoral reforms, debate about social justice, debate about civic education. That is also very important today also. And this is continuing exercise. So which single institutional reform would you propose to make democracy both fairer, that means, both more justified and more effective? So we are actually discussing these very important and continuously engaging models so that you can make your quick notes, you can understand them clearly, and you can also correlate them with the modern developments. Thank you very much for your understanding and do revise these lectures more than once so that you have clarity of thought.